My parents never allowed me to have boys sleep over at the house, so when they came to visit me I made them sleep in separate rooms. I, 25F, have 2 older brothers, and when we were growing up we were never allowed girlfriends or boyfriends to spend the night. When my brothers got to about 16, the rule changed and their girlfriends were allowed to spend nights, but they had to sleep in the spare room. I didn't get my first boyfriend until I was 18, but unlike the treatment my brothers got, my parents wouldn't allow my boyfriend to spend the night at all, despite the fact he'd be in the spare room and that we were both over 18. I wouldn't have minded if my brothers had been held to that standard, but I felt as if they were favored over me. It isn't even because they disliked my boyfriend at the time either, everyone seemed to love him. That relationship didn't last more than 6 months, so I dropped it after a while. I got with my now fiancé when I was 22, and we've been engaged for a year but we're getting married in only a few months. Just like every time before, my parents wouldn't allow him to spend the nights until a few months after we got engaged and after I brought it up to them. It wasn't a conflict, but they knew I was irritated about it and so they allowed him to start using the spare room. We moved in together not long after, so it didn't really matter. Fast forward to the main issue. My mother asked about wedding planning, which is the first time she even contacted me since the move, and I told her I still had a lot to sort out but that I was getting through it. She practically insisted on her and my stepdad coming up to visit me and having a week of mother-daughter bonding time, where she could help me with wedding planning. This isn't a problem with my fiancé at all, as he isn't a very social person and is happy to just be the money bags behind my wedding decisions. He just likes to give his little opinions here and there, and I'm sure to include them when he does. My parents arrived, and we spent the first day going out to dinner. I'd like to point out that the two aren't married and are steadfast that they won't be getting married again, both of them divorced already, my stepdad twice. As the night was slowing down they asked to be shown to their room. I directed my mother to one guest room and my stepfather to another. We have a 3-bedroom house with no kids yet, so we have the space. My mom said that there was plenty of space in one room for them both and then she instructed my stepdad to come in with her. I explained to her just like she told me when I was younger, that it's my house and I didn't want them sharing a bed in my house. I basically repeated word for word what she would tell me when I'd complain about my brothers getting better treatment than me when it came to their girlfriends. I told her that actually, they were in the same position I was in because neither of us was married. She tried saying it was different because they had been together for almost 20 years. I told them that it didn't matter because this is my house, and my decision is final, just like how my mother would shut down any discussions about it back then. I was sure to mention how my brothers were allowed their partners, and I wasn't, but she claimed I was making it up. Things got a little heated, but eventually settled down and they both headed off for bed in their separate rooms. They stayed the night and left for home the next day without saying goodbye, which I preferred because I was happy with wedding planning on my own, and I haven't heard from them since. My grandma called me and blew my ear off about the situation, but I don't really think I'm in the wrong. Update. After I let the dust settle, I contacted my brothers and asked for their perception, and they mostly agreed with me. They said exactly what I said, that their girlfriends were staying in their beds at 18, let alone not even allowed to sleep in the house at 22. They mentioned that our parents only brought up our disagreement once to them in passing when they got home, but once my oldest brother reminded them that it was true that they were allowed partners over as teens, they never brought it up again. It took a couple of weeks, but my mother called me to talk. At first, she maintained that it was probably only a few times they were allowed girlfriends to sleep over, but I was quick to shut it down. Everything she said I had an answer for. I admit, stress from wedding planning was taking a toll on my self-control. It ended with my mother admitting that she must have forgotten it all, so I just left it. She asked if we could put it all behind us, and I said as soon as she apologized then we could. She said that she understands how it may have come across wrong and a bit of favoritism, but she didn't mean it to. They were just overly protective of me being their only girl and didn't realize how that would come across to me. It may not seem like much from my mother, but that's as good as a bunch of flowers and a please forgive me card.